She liked you. I could see it in her eyes when you walked into that bar 3 weeks ago. The way she leaned forward when you spoke, how she laughed at your terrible joke about the bartender's mustache. You had her attention, her curiosity, maybe even the beginning of real attraction. And then you opened your mouth again, and I watched it all drain away like water through your fingers. If you value truth over comfortable lies, hit that like and hype buttons immediately. Subscribe to this channel and tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. I want to know where my strongest, most aware men are tuning in tonight. I'm going to be honest with you because nobody else will. I coach men through dating, and I've seen this pattern so many times I could script it in my sleep. You're not losing women because of your looks, your job, or your age. You're losing them because of 7 specific things you say that kill attraction faster than any rejection letter ever could. And the worst part? You think these words make you sound genuine, confident, even charming. They don't. By the end of this, you'll know exactly what's been sabotaging your chances. Not theory, not guesswork, but the actual verbal landmines that make a woman's interest evaporate mid-conversation. Because here's what I've learned after a decade of watching men talk themselves out of relationships. Attraction doesn't fade naturally. It gets talked to death. Let me explain something about female psychology that most dating advice gets wrong. Women don't lose interest because you said the wrong pickup line or forgot to text back fast enough. They lose interest because of energy inconsistency. Every single word you speak either builds mystery or bleeds validation, either creates tension or destroys it. There's no neutral ground in attraction. I had a client last month, successful architect, divorced, 52 years old. He came to me confused because women on dating apps would chat with him for days, agree to meet, and then ghost him after the first date, every single time. When I asked him to replay his conversations, the problem became obvious within 5 minutes. He was explaining himself like he was being deposed in court, justifying his divorce, defending his career choices, apologizing for his preferences. He thought he was being transparent. She heard insecurity wrapped in a monologue. That's the thing about women in words. We listen to tone more than content. We feel the energy behind your sentences before we process what you're actually saying. And when your energy screams need, no amount of clever words will save you. So let's dissect the 7 instant verbal red flags that make women shut down. Some will surprise you. Some will make you uncomfortable. All of them are costing you more than you realize. The first one makes her lose respect before dessert even arrives. Turn off number 1. The apology overload. Picture this. Second date, late afternoon. The kind of golden sunlight that makes even an ordinary coffee shop look cinematic. She's sitting across from you, stirring her latte. You're trying to be thoughtful, considerate, respectful, all the right things. She casually mentions, "I actually prefer tea." You respond instantly, "Oh, sorry, I just assumed coffee was fine." "Sorry, I should have asked first. Sorry for being presumptuous." 3 apologies. 10 seconds. A small, nervous smile. And just like that, something in her energy shifts. You might not notice it immediately, but behind her polite expression, something quietly disengaged. Here's the part most people miss. Apologies are supposed to repair connection, not weaken it. A real apology acknowledges a moment of impact, then moves forward with grounded awareness. But when you apologize for every microsecond of being human, for existing, for expressing yourself, for occupying conversational space, you're not signaling kindness. You're broadcasting insecurity, and insecurity has a way of echoing louder than anything else you say afterward. When every sorry slips out reflexively, it starts sounding like a nervous tick, not empathy. You might think you're being polite, but what she hears is, "I'm afraid of upsetting you. I need your approval to feel okay." And that energy, it's exhausting. I once overheard a woman recount a date to her friend. She said, "He was sweet, really sweet, but it felt like he kept shrinking mid-sentence, like watching someone apologize for breathing. That's what over-apologizing does. It chips away at presence. Each sorry sands down a little more of your confidence until all that's left is a faint echo of someone trying not to take up too much space. The truth is, confident men, truly grounded men, don't apologize for being themselves. They'll say sorry once, clearly, when it matters. They'll look you in the eye, acknowledge it, and then correct the behavior. That's strength, not submission. Because confidence doesn't mean you never mess up. It means you trust that when you do, you can handle it, you can repair it without crumbling. Every sorry should serve a purpose. Otherwise, it's just emotional noise. Static that drowns out authenticity. So when you find yourself saying sorry for interrupting, sorry for laughing too loud, sorry for expressing an opinion, stop. Ask yourself, am I actually apologizing for a mistake? Or am I apologizing for existing? Because one earns respect. The other silently begs for permission. And here's the twist. The next turn-off doesn't sound insecure at all. In fact, it often sounds confident, assertive, even attractive. At first. But that's exactly what makes it twice as dangerous. Turn-off number 2. The brag wrapped as modesty. I'm not trying to impress you, but I just closed a deal that most people spend years working toward. You think the disclaimer softens the brag. It doesn't. She caught the word but before your accomplishment even landed. What you meant as humble comes across as desperate for validation, disguised as casual conversation. I see this constantly with men in their 40s and 50s. You've built real success, legitimate achievements, and you're terrified of appearing arrogant. So you gift-wrap your accomplishments in false modesty, hoping she'll dig through the packaging and find the impressive stuff underneath. She won't. Women sense when validation hides behind performance. We can smell the need for approval, like smoke in a closed room. You're not sharing your life, you're selling it. And the moment we feel like we're being sold to, attraction collapses. Genuine power doesn't narrate itself. It exists quietly and lets others notice on their own timeline. The most attractive men I know barely mention their achievements. They let their energy and presence do the talking, while their resume stays silent. But the third turnoff doesn't sound like bragging at all. It sounds like kindness, which makes it even more dangerous. Turnoff number 3, the compliment that feels transactional. You're so beautiful. I bet you hear that all the time. You meant it as a compliment. She heard it as an analysis, a calculation, a transaction pretending to be flattery. You just told her that you're aware she gets attention, which means you're competing with invisible men in your own head, which means you're already positioning yourself as less valuable than them. One of my clients showed me a text thread where a woman suddenly went cold after 3 days of warm conversation. The turning point? He sent, "You're stunning. Guys must be lining up for you." She responded with a polite thanks and never initiated contact again. When I asked him why he sent it, he said, "I wanted her to know I noticed she was attractive." But what he actually communicated was, "I'm intimidated by your options. I'm preemptively explaining why you might reject me. And I see you as a category rather than a person." Compliments lose all power when they sound pre-approved by committee. Real attraction comes from observation, not flattery. It's noticing the specific way she laughs when she's surprised, not telling her she's beautiful like you're reading from a script. The fourth turn-off sounds kind and emotionally intelligent, which is exactly the trap. Turn-off number 4. The therapist tone. You seem like you've been hurt before. You think you're showing depth and empathy. She's wondering who gave you permission to diagnose her emotional history over appetizers. I watched this happen at a wine bar last year. A man, mid-50s, silver hair, expensive watch. Clearly successful, clearly trying. The woman across from him was engaged and smiling until he leaned forward and said, "I can tell you've built walls. It's okay. I'm patient. Her smile froze. Within 20 minutes, she made an excuse about an early meeting and left. What happened? He tried to connect by sounding wise instead of being present. He turned their date into a therapy session where he appointed himself the healer and her the damaged client. Women want empathy, not analysis. We want you to meet us where we are, not explain us to ourselves. The most attractive men don't try to decode women like we're puzzles. They stay curious without needing to solve anything. They ask questions and actually listen instead of waiting to deliver insights. But the fifth turnoff ruins attraction before it even has a chance to build. Turnoff number 5, the honest overshare. I'm just being real with you. I don't really do relationships. I've been ghosted too many times and honestly, it messed me up. You think radical honesty builds trust. It doesn't. It builds emotional debt before the check even arrives. Here's what women hear when you overshare your wounds on a first date. You're not healed, you're not ready, and you're hoping I'll fix something broken inside you that you haven't addressed yourself. Your transparency isn't vulnerability. It's a warning sign dressed up as authenticity. I had a client who couldn't understand why women never called him back after seemingly great first dates. When we reviewed his conversation patterns, he was dumping his entire relationship history, his therapy insights, his fears about commitment, all within the first hour. He thought he was being mature and open. She wasn't turned off by his past. She was turned off by his wounds demanding attention like children in a grocery store. Boundaries create mystery. Strategic privacy creates tension. Oversharing kills both. The right time to share your story is after she's invested, after trust is earned, not as an opening monologue designed to preempt rejection. But the sixth turnoff is subtle. Even confident men miss it completely. Turnoff number 6. The hidden competition line. I really like women who aren't too emotional or high maintenance. You think you're stating a preference. She hears, I'll punish you for being human. Backhanded statements disguised as preferences reveal unhealed resentment toward women. Every time you describe what you don't want in a woman, you're actually describing past hurt that you haven't processed, and women pick up on that bitterness instantly. One woman told me about a date where the man casually mentioned he appreciated that she seemed low drama. She said, it felt like I'd already failed a test I didn't know I was taking, like he was measuring me against someone who hurt him, and I was guilty by gender. When you lead with what you're avoiding, you communicate that you're still fighting old battles. You're not present with the woman in front of you. You're negotiating with ghosts. The most attractive men don't need to announce what they won't tolerate because their boundaries are already in place, quiet and firm. They evaluate compatibility through observation, not comparison. And the 7th turnoff. It's the silent killer that ends attraction without a single argument. Turnoff number 7. The need for confirmation. Do you like me? Did I say something wrong? Are we good? The moment you ask a woman to confirm your value, you've given away all your power. Women lose respect the instant you outsource confidence to them. Not because we're cruel, but because attraction requires polarity, and constant reassurance collapses that polarity into neediness. I've heard this exact phrase 3 times in the last month from different women. He's sweet, but something in me just switched off when he asked if I was still interested. Here's the psychology behind it. Curiosity attracts, validation exhausts. When you seek confirmation, you turn attraction into labor. She's no longer exploring whether she likes you. She's now responsible for managing your emotional state. That's not a relationship. That's a second job. Confident men don't ask for reassurance because their sense of self isn't dependent on external approval. They trust their own energy and let the woman's actions speak louder than any verbal confirmation ever could. Now here's the uncomfortable truth that ties all 7 together. It's not your words that turn women off. It's the need behind them. Every sentence you speak reveals your internal hierarchy. Are you seeking or offering? Are you stabilizing yourself or inviting her into something stable? Women feel that distinction instantly. That's why a woman can be texting you all night one day and barely respond the next. Your energy shifted. Maybe you apologized too much. Maybe you overshared your insecurity. Maybe you asked for reassurance when you should have trusted the connection. The words themselves don't matter as much as the current running underneath them. One of my clients figured this out after months of confusion. He stopped explaining himself, stopped seeking approval, stopped turning conversations into auditions for her affection. He simply showed up present and let silence do the heavy lifting. Within 3 dates, the woman he'd been seeing told him she'd never felt more attracted to anyone. What changed? Not his words, his energy. He stopped talking her into wanting him and started leaving space for her curiosity to finish the sentence. Control your tone, not your vocabulary. Manage your energy, not your script. Because attraction doesn't live in perfect words. It lives in the calm confidence of a man who knows that explaining less says everything. The most attractive thing you can do is stop trying to convince her. Stop justifying, stop defending, stop preemptively managing her perception of you. Just exist fully, speak intentionally, and trust that the right woman won't need a sales pitch. Because here's what nobody tells you about dating after 40. Women aren't looking for perfect men. We're looking for self-assured men. Men who've done the internal work. Men who can sit in silence without filling it with nervous energy. Men who apologize once, compliment specifically, share strategically, and never, ever ask us to confirm what they should already know about themselves. Attraction fades when everything has to be explained. It revives in calm presence. And the most powerful sentence you'll ever speak to a woman is the one you choose not to say, because your energy already said it louder. That's the real secret. Not what you say, but what you're secure enough to leave unsaid.